One of the main things I wanted to do with this movie, besides making it funny and having an amazing cast, was to really have fun with the action and with the scope and with the special effects, because it's 32 years after the original movie, and I wanted to reboot this for a new generation. And also, I'm just an action junkie. I love action, and when we did Spy a couple of years ago, it was so much fun to do that level of stunts, and I thought this would be fun to bring that level of stunts to Ghostbusters, because for a modern age, when the original one came out, it was so cool to see them shoot the proton guns, but at the same time, 30 years later, I think you need to add more to that. And the idea of having them actually in hand-to-hand combat with ghosts at some point.
Paul also likes to see if he can, the crazier stuff he pitches, how much I'll say yes to. And sadly, I always go, yeah.
Exactly.
I should do that.
Except she wants to do all her stunts, and sometimes
something's wrong with me. I'm always like, I should do that.
Yeah.
I should take that three-story fall.
Yeah.
I should do that.
I really wanted them to be in contact with the ghosts, and since ghosts are people who have died, thought, let's cast
and that's
actors.
what we're here to teach you today.
It's right, like
the story of ghosts.
Ghosts 101.
The origin.
But whenever they're interacting with a ghost, made sure to cast an actor who was in full makeup and in costume, and then we would just augment with them with CG, but it meant that they could have a more realistic performance.
Which made such a huge difference. Like the ghost, because I've talked to so many people about it, and they're like, "Oh, what was the tennis ball like?" And I'm like, "No, like the ghost in the subway in the beginning. He went through 6, 7, 8 hours of prosthetics, and it's someone Dave." I've known Dave for years. I was in there I was in there watching him. I had no idea who it was. And it wasn't until he spoke that I was like, oh my God, I know who you are. But so when we were acting, like Paul, it was so great that he really put people in there that were fully dressed, makeup, prosthetics. It was a little creepy.
This is such a beloved franchise that people are very passionate about it. And we completely understand that. And especially when you hear somebody's going to do a reboot of a classic movie, it is a very natural instinct to be nervous about that. But all we ever ask is just watch the movie and base it on its own merits. And we knew we were doing something pretty special and with this amazing group. And you hear a lot of chatter, and you just go like, you know what? People will talk, and people have these issues. Again, the work will speak for itself.
Everybody from the first movie is so excited that, they're in it. They've seen it. They loved it. They said they screamed it at like a sporting event. So that was the only kind of blessing I needed.
Yeah.
When I catch other people watching Paul and I talking, and then I realize they're looking at us like we're crazy because we don't speak in full sentences, and usually it's like, what if I, no, should I not, maybe I will, and like we're not really making sense, and somehow I'll just look over and there's like 5 crew guys like, what? And then I go, okay, got it. And somehow that's our note session, and I actually get information, but we're usually like 2 11-year-olds trying to make each other laugh.
Yeah, nobody laughs at our jokes more than we do. We think we're hilarious.
We've proven that on set. You do some talking before he comes in. You get yourself centered, and you're like, let's be respectful. And then he walks in, you're like, oh my God. That's just pretty to look at. But that strangely goes away very quickly because and I knew he was going to be nice. Everybody said, oh, he's such a great guy. He's so nice. You're going to love him. You're going to love him. No one mentioned that he was bizarrely funny, which I think is like, okay, I think you've got a couple extra scoops of good stuff. Like, you don't need any more. He was so funny and he was one of the best improvisers I've ever worked with, and I've been lucky enough to work with a lot of really funny guys. He just kind of blew us all away, and we had such a fun time with him that, like, I'm proud of all of us that he just became Chris, and we stopped being creepy, except for Leslie. Leslie continued to objectify him.
There's like handsome guy funny, where you go, like a handsome guy walks in and he tells a joke, and you're like, oh, you're so funny, but it's kind of not that funny. I kind of thought, yeah, that's going to be Chris. Like, he'll be handsome guy funny. And then he's like balls out funny, hilarious. So it really, as Melissa says, it's not fair. You can't look like that and be funny like that. And then he can sing too, right? I
know. He did start singing. We were like talking about, he was trying to look up somebody, and we were talking about music. And I said, what song is that? And he started singing it. And I was like, don't. For God's sakes, can you sing? And he goes, well, I can carry a tune. I was like, just don't. because I'm going to pretend that you're terrible at something or I'll hate you. So just shut it and don't sing, ever.
He knits a mean sweater, too.
Yeah, really.
I like the thing.
He made this dress.
What can't he do?
Hemsworth.
You Hemsworth.
Wow.
Katie Dippold, who wrote the movie with I and myself, when we first sat down, we basically said, if we didn't make this movie and somebody else did, and we went to watch it, what would we be bummed if it wasn't in the movie? And it was very first the Ecto-1, and the proton packs and the slime and Slimer and the logo.
Slime.
Yes.
Ooh, that slime.
It's her favorite, exactly. The ladies loved the slime. They thought they were going to love the slime. Everybody's like, when do we get slime? We can't wait.
We were super excited to get slimed, and we're like, it's happening! And then when it was happening, we're like, oh, dear God, it's happening! And you can't, fun fact, Paul stayed like this the whole time in a handsome suit.
Far away.
You can't wash it off? Yeah. That's what we said. We're like, when you try to like do it with water, it reactivates and doubles. And you start to feel crazy because you're like, I'm washing it, and yet there's more. And you have to like take it off with dry towels, and then it's still, when you hit it with water, it like doubles again. So it's like a couple days to get that off. Sorry. Just needed to get that in there.
Honestly, again, since we were doing a reboot and a new origin story, we realized, oh, let's have fun with showing where these things came from. Because in the original one, they sort of just had the proton packs already. And for us, it was fun, like, let's see how they develop. It starts as a big 70-pound cart on wheels that they have to roll around. And then as they go along, they realize they figure out how to miniaturize it all. And so it was fun to do that kind of thing. Or like, where did the logo come from? And you see in the movie, we actually show how that happened. And even the Ecto-1, turns out it's, Leslie's uncle owns a funeral home. And so you get a hearse.
I love that you actually see the origin of where all these things come from. It's like, if, for people who love the originals like myself and all of us that made it, or for people that's like, it was 32 years ago, there's a massive amount of people that are going to see this for the first time, and I think it just works so well for both.
This movie was made by people who love the original movie. We are such fanatics. I was there opening night of opening weekend when I was in film school. Nothing cynical went into this film. It was really the feeling we got watching that first movie, the fun that it delivered to an audience, the laughs that it delivered to an audience was so fantastic. That's the only reason I make movies. That's the only reason Melissa makes movies. We only want to entertain an audience. We want people to have an hour and a half, 2 hours of absolute fun, joy, escapist fun. And really, there's no other agenda with this movie other than to make people laugh and make them have a great time. I love working with funny women and realized when I was going to make this movie, why did the original movie work so well? It worked because of that cast and those 4 Ghostbusters who were at the time the funniest people working. And all I said was, I need to create that chemistry here. I know the funniest women on the planet. I'm going to put them in this movie. And that was really the only agenda I had, to make people laugh that way. Putting this movie together, to have 4 people, you want to make sure you have 4 different comedic energies, and yet in service of the same type of comedy. And what I love about Melissa's style of comedy, first of all, Melissa can kind of do anything. So honestly, we've done movies where she's the brash.
Has to say that. I'm sitting right here.
Exactly. But if you think about it, look at our movies together. She's played brash, in your face, like in The Heat, that kind of person in Bridesmaids. But then in Spy, it was fun to like have her be this meek person who comes out of her shell. And in this, it was like, let's make her the leader of the pack. She's like the unapologetic, proud geek who goes out and believes in this thing and is not going to take no for an answer. And then with Kristen, I wanted to have, she's playing the character who believed and was best friends with Melissa's character, but then just got tired of being called crazy because she had an experience as a kid where she saw a ghost in her room every night for a year. Nobody believed her. They put her in therapy. They all called her Ghost Girl at school. So they thought she was crazy, and it just wore her down. So she left to become a real scientist, whereas Melissa's character stayed the course. And then when Kristen comes back under a different, for a different reason, and they see a ghost together, then they are unified. But it was just fun to have that, the firm believer, the one who wavered, but they're both friends and they're both strong, smart women. That was really fun.
What Paul does so well, I think he assembles a cast that always seems to work, and it's always out of the box. He doesn't do that thing of, you're this type, you're that type. He is always taking people that most people say, well, they can't do that. That's not what they do. And it's like, those are imaginary boundaries. And Paul doesn't even kind of seem to pay any attention to them, delightfully. And all four of us women we have such different energies and different styles. But the real trick is that Paul knows that when we come together, they all work so well together. And that's the true magic that you hope for.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching Hey You Guys!
Hey You Guys, huh?
Hey, you guys.
Is that from the Goonies?
It is indeed, yes.
Nice.
Hey, you